Uh, Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the third annual Wild Wisconsin Winter Web Conference. This is Jamie Machik with the Nicolay Federated Library System, and we've had 4 excellent presentations so far. I think you would all agree with me on that, and I know that will be the same after this one. We have 5 more tomorrow, same times, starting at 9 o'clock. Going for about an hour. Just want to take a moment to thank our systems who helped co-sponsor this conference. Also want to thank people who were tweeting today, monitoring the Twitter feed. We had Sarah and Bradley, Jean and Joy. I have Jean Anderson with me here. Also as a moderator in case I happen to pass out or something weird, and she's here as my backup. So, this conference couldn't happen without all this collaborative effort, and I'm very thankful for the support and the help, and I know you are too. So I just wanted to mention that. So our final presenter today is Sarah Houghton of the San Rafael Library. She's the director there, and I could go on and on about Sarah for a long time as far as her accomplishments, and not only her accomplishments, but also her passion that she brings as a library director. If you don't follow her blog, Librarian in Black, I suggest you do. She blogged about this library love idea a while back, and it was something that really struck me because I think it's an important message, but I haven't really heard anyone talk about it. So when I saw the blog post, I'm like, ooh, I think this would make a good presentation, and luckily she agreed to present on this topic. So, Sarah, whenever you are ready, go right ahead.
Great. Thank you so much, Jamie, and thanks to everyone for joining me this afternoon to talk about love, because why not? As Jamie mentioned, the initial idea for this came from a blog post I wrote, and I wrote it in response to seeing libraries talk a lot about love and librarians talk a lot about love, and I felt like we're having the wrong conversation. And so we'll talk about that today and about some strategies for maybe changing the conversation a little bit. I hope that you'll feel free to pop any questions or share your own ideas into the chat. That is super helpful. I'll keep an eye on that as I'm speaking. This is one of those topics I think everybody has something to contribute to, so please do. So you hear a lot about love in libraries, this Love Your Library campaigns. We have all sorts of these campaigns throughout the world, not just in the U.S., where we're really playing on people's love for the library as an institution, about their hopefully warm and fuzzy memories and feelings about libraries and librarians from their childhood. But the word love and the word library just seems to be next to each other a lot. And we've kind of taken this on in the U.S. To a little bit of a ridiculous degree. There's the ilovelibraries.org website and campaign, which are run by the American Library Association. So this is actually like a formal, yes, you should love libraries and all that good stuff. Our own organization is supporting this message, and I think they're wrong. No offense to the people who worked on that campaign or anybody who works for ALA. I think they're wrong. One of the things that confuses the heck out of me is you go to this website, it's ilovelibraries.org, right? So you're like, okay, if you love libraries, you would go to this site. Well, the weird thing is most of what's on this page is actually geared toward people who work in libraries, specifically librarians quite a few times. This isn't really geared toward the community. And you would kind of think that a website called ilovelibraries.org would be geared toward the people that we think love us or should love us, which is a little strange. So that's kind of step one, is there's this weird mixed message I think that's going out through that campaign. There's also the I Love My Librarian Awards that's put on by Carnegie and the New York Times, and that's going to be coming up again soon this year. And I can tell you from conversations with other librarians, there are quite a few people who actually get kind of pissed off when they don't get nominated or they don't win. They're like, well, I'm awesome. I do my job. I'm a great librarian. Why didn't anyone in my community recognize me? Or why didn't one of my peers nominate me? This isn't fair. Why doesn't my board of commissioners love me enough to take the time to recognize me for this? I see a lot of librarians and libraries pushing this award out on social media and not directly saying, hey, nominate one of us. But it's kind of overt. It's you're just saying, okay, here's this award. It'd be really great if you nominated one of us. That'd be lovely if you want to. And again, it's engendered this weird feeling, as many awards do, that when you don't win, does that mean that nobody loves you? Does that mean you're not a good librarian? If nobody nominates you, does that mean your work is meaningless? Absolutely not. So we've kind of taken it past the loving libraries to the librarians too. The Pew Research and Internet Project did a whole series of studies about libraries, and I will freely put a disclaimer out there that I actually helped them with quite a few of these studies. But a lot of the questions that they asked were kind of coming from a defensive position of trying to prove that libraries are still relevant, trying to prove that libraries are important to their communities, that people in their communities love them, that people value what a library is and stands for, and that they love and they trust and they honor librarians specifically. And again, kind of all of that language was confusing to me in that I felt, again, we're talking about people loving us. We're asking people to love us. We're telling people to love us. We're begging people to love us. And it just feels really strange to me. Like I said, it's not just the U.S. There are campaigns in other parts of the world that are very similar, but a lot of them are phrased this way, in an imperative sentence: love libraries. Love your librarian. You should love libraries. Libraries are important. And again, that just strikes me as super, super not helpful. So you can do a search online for love and libraries or any permutation of that, and you're going to get a ton of graphics. Tell us why you love your library. Cute little I Love Lucy parodies and such. You've probably seen or even had in your own library a wall or a social media post or a bulletin board or something where you're asking people to tell you, why do you love us? Why are we awesome? Why are we so great? Which is, again, a little weird. Public libraries specifically tend to be the target for this most of the time. Other libraries have done specific campaigns asking people to give information about why they love their libraries. It's pretty much endless. A clever librarian actually did a little wildcard search operator for that graphic, which I thought was hilarious, because nobody else on this good earth has any idea what that means except us. But, whatever makes you happy. But this message is out there all the time. It's, you should love libraries. Tell us why you love us. Love, love, love. And it's a little weird. It also extends to librarians. So, like I mentioned, we talk about librarians being the focus of love. And you can find all sorts of stuff online for this as well. I want to see someone wear that tie who's not a librarian, wear that tie to like the exhibit floor at an ALA conference, and then see how that goes over. But this, again, it's like, no, you should love libraries. You should love librarians. It's important. You should love us. And that's all kind of weird. So some of the comments: we need to respect, not love. People who are using libraries tend to like us already. It's kind of weird. So this whole librarian love thing, there is a whole world that we're not talking about of people who actually do love librarians, like in a weird fetishized way, who love libraries and books in a weird fetishized way. So that does exist, and that's not what I'm talking about. Those librarian lovers are typically not the people you want to be spending a lot of time with, because there is a line that gets crossed. And also there's a plethora of pornography that has to do with librarians. Again, that is not what we're talking about. But that being said, this is one of my favorite images ever, which is sleep with a librarian. You'll learn something, because I think that's true, just in general. If nothing else, with the intelligent pillow talk afterward. But back to our topic, this telling someone to love you, begging for it, telling people that they should love you, that you're implying that they should be bad or feel bad about themselves if they don't love you, they don't appreciate you, is kind of really bad, and it reminds me of an abusive relationship. It reminds me of someone who's totally lacking self-confidence, who meets someone who's new and exciting and awesome, and they want to impress them and they want them as part of their life. Super interesting person, but is not interested back in you. And it's the same kind of dynamic that you see in a human dysfunctional relationship. I think we're seeing in this relationship and this messaging that we're building with our communities. I think we're kind of coming to this as almost like an abused spouse of, no, it's okay, I know you don't give us enough funding and everything, but I understand, other things are really important to you, more so than I am. Like police is important, I get that, that's cool, and you can cheat on me with police if you want to, that's all right, but could you please love me too? Could you love me, show me a little love, please? I mean, you really should love me. I am pretty awesome, really, really nice person, give you a lot of good stuff for free. You should really love me. Hey, are you listening? Love me. Please love me. I mean, these are the kind of conversations that run through my mind whenever I see one of these campaigns. And it's totally the wrong conversation to be having, absolutely the wrong conversation. It puts us in an extraordinarily defensive and subservient position where we're begging. We're trying to explain to people instead of why we're important, we're just saying, no, you should love us. No, for real, we're awesome. Love us. Yeah, we're cool. Love us. If you don't, you're kind of a bad person. And that's messed up. Also, about being the whole being defensive thing, instead of focusing on what we offer, what we do, what we have, we do this navel gazing of we're at risk, nobody thinks we're important. We have to make them think we're important. We have to guilt them into thinking we're important. We have to tell them with authority that they should think we're important. And none of that works. I mean, think about it in terms of a human relationship. It's never going to work. And the relationship between any institution and human beings is not going to work that way either. So one thing I would ask is think about what this campaign would look like if it was not a library and how weird that would be. If McDonald's had a campaign of, love McDonald's, tell us why you love us, you should love us, that's important. Or, a university, love your university, universities are important, tell us why you love us. All of that would just seem kind of weird. And for some reason, we've just focused on this element of campaigning for so long that it's become a real integrated part of some of the special days that we celebrate throughout the year, National Library Week, some of the graphic design that we do, some of the stuff we do for displays or internal campaigns. Just really, really bizarre to me. It's strange. So instead, I think what we need to do is to look at our communities as they are. They're a partner. We exist for our community members. We're here to give them love. They're here to give us love. We wouldn't exist if they didn't think we were an important institution. People vote with their money. They vote with their time. If nobody was using the library, that'd be a damn good indicator that we weren't relevant anymore. And instead, we're seeing usage skyrocket right now. So we don't need to be as defensive as we're being. So what I'd like us to focus on instead is the fact that we love our communities. We in libraries love our communities. So talking about library staff for a bit, this is a photo from last Halloween of the staff who decided to dress up, and a lot of us actually had our costumes based on characters in books, so we went out and got the books that they were based on and held those up, which was kind of, stereotypically librarian-y, but that's cool. But the point is, we do this for fun. We do this because it's a fun day that we celebrate with our community members. All the kids come in and they're dressed up, and we show each other all of our costumes. And, you know, the staff in my library is no different than staff everywhere else. They work in libraries because they believe in what they do. You know, people don't go into working in a library because of the high paycheck, not for the recognition, definitely not for the accolades or the lack of public scrutiny or any of those other reasons. There are a lot of reasons not to work in a library, but those of us who choose to do it because we believe in what we do, and we actually love and care about our communities. One of the people pictured here is a very active advocate locally with our homeless population and services to people who are just down and out and trying to get back on their feet. One of the people in this picture takes care of an entire feral cat colony just a couple blocks from the library. One of these people volunteers tremendously at her child's school in the same town that our library is in. One of these people works really, really hard at teaching children totally outside of her job on how to grow food in an urban setting so that they can have healthy things to eat at home. And so to me, you know, I feel like our staff have all of these wonderful things that they do already that show that they love what they do. Outside of the paycheck, outside of the job, library staff love the communities they work in. They love the communities they work for. And I think that that should be our message. Instead of asking for love, instead of telling people that they should love us, we should focus on how much we love our communities. And to me, that's the new message. To me, that's the message I want to focus on. And we're actively moving toward that at my library now. So Jason says another defensive stance is ire that some people have when staff are misidentified as librarians. And I agree. To everybody, almost everybody, anyone who's working in a library is a librarian, and you know, why are we so defensive about the degree? You know, I totally agree with you. It doesn't matter. We know the difference, and we do the work that we have to do. We don't need to get all pissy and correct people when they use the wrong word, which I have heard librarians do, and it does not come off well. It is very defensive. Jason's right. So like I said, I really think the focus should be back on the community itself and why we love the community, what we feel about the community, what we're trying to do for the community as a member, and the library as an institution is a member of the community. And I think that that's, to me, the real focus of what we should be having in our conversations with ourselves and with each other as we're trying to come up with effective outreach tools, with effective marketing messages, campaigns. If you're looking at a campaign any time in the near future and you see the word love in it, community better damn well be in that message too, and not the word library or librarians. That's kind of what I'm hoping people walk away with today, is to just be more watchful for what language we're using and what we're saying. So Jamie just asked what we love most about our community, and so I'll put it out there for my own self. I love our community's diversity, both geographically and the makeup of our community members, of the types of things that we can do here. I live in a very progressive part of the country. Often think I kind of live in a bubble, but I like my bubble, and my community is reflective of that bubble, and I like it. And, you know, that's the kind of reason that those of us who live here have chosen to live here. And we try to reflect that in the programming we do at the library. But everyone's going to have a different reason for loving your community. But pretty much everybody does love the community that they work in. You might hate individual community members. That's okay. I understand that. But the community as a whole, we all love them. And library staff work so hard to serve that community. I cannot think of a time where I've been talking with someone who's working in a library and they just say, yeah, I don't really care about my job. It's just whatever. I come in, I put in the time, and I leave. You know, people always talk, regardless of whether they're professional librarians or a brand new page or a library assistant, doesn't matter. People consistently talk about what they love about the work that they do. And it always comes back to the people that they're serving, whether it's I love getting a thank you from a child when they've read a book I recommended and they loved it. I like working with my neighbors and helping them find information. I like educating the community about how they can guard their privacy better and hearing from people that they feel safer as a result. You know, it's always about those personal interactions, those personal stories. That's what people like. That's what you hear. That's what people love. And if you do have someone working in your library who doesn't love the work, it shows. It absolutely shows. And usually those people do not last very long. So most libraries are lucky in that they're working with a core of people who are super dedicated to what the library does, who are super dedicated to their communities, and that's what we should be talking about. So this idea of we love our community, you know, I want to talk a little bit more about what I mean by that. It's easy to say community. It's easy to say, you know, our residents, our whatever. But when I say our community, I kind of mean the whole everything about the geographic place in which you live. So for us, one of the things we've been finding as we've been doing research with our users is that very few people who work in our town in San Rafael can afford to live there. It's an expensive place to live. The whole surrounding area is very expensive. So a lot of people work in our town, spend most of their day with us, most of their week with us. They use our library services, but then they drive back over a bridge or on a highway up to their towns. So when I'm talking with our community and when we're talking about reaching out to our users, it's not just people who live in our area. It's people who work there, who own businesses there, who may be students in the town but don't actually live in the town proper. And I think that's an important clarification, is thinking about what you mean by community and who your community actually is. Are you talking about just library users? Well, that's probably not a good a good benchmark either, because you've got a whole group of people who are not users right now with a huge untapped potential of being able to serve them in ways that will be meaningful. So I think it's really important to jump out and figure out, you know, who is the community that you're talking about and who is this community that you're serving. I do like this quote from Henry Rollins, and I post this just to say that, take a step back from my militant position about love in libraries. In no way am I saying that what we do isn't important or that people should appreciate what we do or even say thank you once in a while. That would be lovely. But that should not be our messaging outward to the public. We shouldn't be so defensive and so insecure that we feel we have to beg for this love from the community. We respect our peers. We honor our peers in many, many different ways all the time, and that's important. And that's where I think that love should be coming from, that feeling should be coming from. Our relationship with the communities we serve should not be based on one where, you know, if we're not getting accolades, we're not getting praise, somehow they're not doing their job in the relationship. That's not what they're there for. They're there to use our services, and through using them, hopefully choose to support those services to continue in the future. But we shouldn't be begging them for anything, quite frankly. We do love our communities. I don't think there's any question of that. Many of us work in our communities. We live in the communities we work in many cases. I know that's different from place to place. A lot of places have a lot of commuting going on, but what I'm finding as I travel around the country is it does seem to be that most library staff live either in the community they're serving or pretty darn close by. We actually, as library staff, use our own libraries. I mean, really, we do. You know, we use our own services. We're kind of expert users with a little bit of privilege for changing due dates sometimes when we shouldn't, but we do use our own services. So we know what we're doing because we experience it ourselves. Most people, not all, most who work in libraries do honestly love helping people. And by helping people, they're showing that love that they feel for their community members. And most people who work in libraries really like learning. And through learning and continuous improvement and continuing to develop your skill set, I think you're able to show better service to your customers and show that you care about them. If we didn't care about getting better, about providing better service to our communities, none of us would ever take any classes or attend any webinars or read a book on how to write better performance evaluations. We wouldn't do that. We wouldn't care. We'd be showing up for the paycheck and going home, but we do care. And I think we're one of the few professions where ongoing learning and continuous professional development is absolutely an expectation, because you have to. Not only do you have to stay current, but most of us want to do it by choice anyway, which is not normal in other professions. Another point is that we believe in what we do. If you're working in a library, most likely some part of you is committed to the underlying mission of a library, the goals that your own library has set for your services. We believe very strongly in equity of access. We defend, sometimes literally, intellectual freedom. We stand for intellectual freedom to many of our community members in their minds. We absolutely honor the freedom to learn. We try to encourage people to learn more, regardless of age or financial status or educational background. That drive to learn that we feel ourselves is something we kind of push to other people. We're kind of like the learning drug dealers, which is not a bad drug to deal. We also work really hard toward user privacy and stand up for that in the global theater and elsewhere. It's very important to us, and again, to our communities. Many of the times that they think about online privacy, the library might be the first thing that they think of, because that's where they took a class on how to protect their privacy, or that's where they were told by someone on how to secure their email a little better, or how to make a better password. We work on that really hard. We champion the right to learn beyond just the freedom to learn. The core function of a library is to level that intellectual playing field and the learning field, so that anyone who wants to learn anything ever about anything can do so. And it's really easy to focus on what libraries do in terms of providing entertainment. People check out fiction books and movies, and that's all wonderful and great and important to a community. But that work that we do toward learning and making sure that literally, if you have an interest in something, we will help you learn all you can about it. If you're willing to check out 50 books on a topic, loaning restrictions notwithstanding, we'll do that. We'll get you anything and everything we can on a topic. And, these are things that we just do. We don't necessarily think about them. We don't think, oh, that's odd, or that's not how other professions exist. But it's not. These are things that are, pretty unique to us and a couple of other professions. And I think it's important to recognize that these are the services that we provide our community with. And by focusing on these and focusing on the very things that we do and doing more of them, that's how we gain community support, and that's how we demonstrate to people that we love them. We love them back. So I have a few ideas. So Valentine's Day is coming up, and so I'm going to put out a call to action for everybody here. Now, I know that's like soon in library timelines, right? It's less than a month away. Typically, we plan 3 to 12 months in advance. I understand that. That's okay. You can do stuff quick and dirty. Doesn't have to be perfect. So here's my goal for everybody for Valentine's Day. And we're going to be doing this at my library. My staff doesn't know yet. I'm telling them tomorrow at our staff meeting. But I would invite you all to join me in changing Valentine's Day, or the week of Valentine's Day, into a message about how the library loves the community, that our communities are important to us, that our communities matter, and that we're here to serve them, and here's how we do that, and here's how we demonstrate how much our communities mean to us. So just tossing out some ideas, you could have a Library Loves You week, and each day you do something just a little bit different that shows how you love your community. And some of it is stuff you're going to do anyway, but by focusing on it, you're drawing attention to it, you're marketing a good message, and you're advertising that service, just incidentally, which is great. So maybe the first day you have free replacement library cards for people. A lot of places charge for a replacement card. Maybe you just do them free for a day. It's not going to cost a lot of money, absolutely not going to break the bank, so hopefully you wouldn't have to go to your city council or whatever to get approval to do it. Free book recommendations, so like customized just for you. We'll recommend you an awesome book if you just tell us, one or two other authors that you really like. We do that anyway, but focus on that and say, this is how we're showing we love you today. 20 minutes of free research help on a topic of your choice. Once again, something we do anyway. But a lot of people don't necessarily think of us in that vein, particularly millennials and younger. They don't necessarily associate a library or a librarian as a place to get research help or assistance. And so focusing on that service and reminding people, hey, we do this too. We're little research ninjas over here. Come on in and we'll get you some free help. And that's their present that day. Have a little toy that you give away with story time maybe. So I know we've got like 2 or 3 boxes full of like little tiny toys from probably 15 years worth of summer reading programs where we just had a couple extras of these and a few extras of those. And I'm guessing you got a box somewhere in your library that's similar where you could probably round up enough of something to give one of them away to each kid at story time. Maybe you do fine forgiveness one day. I know that can sometimes be fiscally difficult, so that would be something to iron out with your attorney's office, your finance department before you do it. But that's the one people like the most is when you do fine forgiveness for like a food drive or simply just fine forgiveness for kids for the day or something. That's the one that people like the most. It's also the most expensive to the library, but it's worth it. Maybe you give people an extra hour of computer time. People will lose their freaking minds if you give them extra computer time. Oh my gosh, will they lose their minds. If you have an automated timeout system, this might be a little tricky. I know in ours you can kind of juggle it day by day and switch it up a bit. You could reserve a couple of stations as just kind of this is the special extra hour computer station for the day, or have a couple of those so if people get timed out they can use that temporarily. Have a couple of laptops you can give to people so you have their little extra hour. People will lose their minds over this. You know how much those computer users value that time. This one I think would be super popular with that section of our users. And then, close out the week in a very nice way and do some literary speed dating. So I've run a couple of speed dating events, and it really doesn't take that much preparation. Like you need a bell and some slips for people to write their stuff on and some name tags and maybe some cutesy little decorations and some little factoids or something to give people to jumpstart their conversation as they move from person to person. I know the San Francisco Public Library does a literary speed dating event where they ask their community members to bring one of their favorite books with them. And then the starting point of each conversation is explaining what it is about that book that you loved so much. And been very successful. So maybe, close it out with like literally not only does the library love you, but the library is going to help you find even more love in your community. I feel like this kind of a focus could be really beneficial for us. I feel like having a whole week where you just day by day it's different. You got a little sign in the lobby like today is We Love You Prize or whatever, telling people what it is. I feel like that would be really, really popular. The one caveat I will give for this is try to remember your users that don't come into the library. Try to remember your remote users because that's a big group of people and it grows every single year. So as much of this as you can kind of duplicate both online and in the physical library, that's better. So giving away a toy with story time, it's a little bit hard to duplicate online, but maybe there's a way that you can do that where, you can ship somebody some crazy, weird, stupid little toy from Amazon with free Prime shipping or something. But I just don't want that group of the remote users to get lost because they're an important and growing segment of our user base, and we need to remember them as well. So Lisa's saying we started customer appreciation days last year, did them periodically, and some of the things, it worked. That's awesome. Yeah, people like being told that they're awesome. They don't like being asked why you're awesome. I mean, I think that's kind of the message is we do love our communities. It's not a lie. It's not like we're pretending for the day. We actually do care about our communities, and we love helping them. So these are just some ideas. If other people have ideas of things that you could do, like as a little demonstration of the library loves you, maybe Lisa remembers some of the stuff she did, I think that would be really helpful just to kind of brainstorm some more ideas. So a few tips just for, beyond any kind of, featured event series or Library Loves You campaign, what are some things that you can do to just change your mindset? Well, first is just changing your language. So like I said, anytime you see the word love in any kind of library marketing material, take a step back and think about the message you're sending. Is it a defensive message? Is it a begging, sad message? Is it a plaintive message? Or are you sending a positive message and really showing the people that we serve how much we care about serving them well? Also, project confidence, for goodness sake. I mean, we know what we do is important. We talk to each other about that all the time, about how working in a library is amazing and what we do is critical to the community, and why is it that the library budget always gets cut first, and we're really important. We know this, but we don't communicate that out to the community. We don't project that confidence in our dealings with our community members. We're often very whiny and we're little beggars a lot of the time of saying, we're only 4.5% of the city's budget and police is 32, and, for the cost of one of their cars, we could have a whole extra. Okay, I agree with that, but stop talking. That is not the conversation you should be having with your community. You don't demonstrate value by whining about what you don't have. You demonstrate value by performing quality service and getting more people to use your services, talk about them with their neighbors and their friends, which gets more people to use your services. Used libraries are supported libraries. Libraries that are not getting used are not getting the same levels of support. And you're not going to convince people to use the services you have by telling them that they're bad people if they don't. That's absolutely not the right tactic. So I'd also encourage people to stop, take a step back, and think like a business, or really any other municipal agency. So in your messaging with the public, when you're doing marketing campaigns, when you're writing a post on Facebook for the library, when you're making a flyer, when you're doing electronic signage for your library, think about the marketing message you're sending like a business would. Or think about yourself as one of what you might perceive as a more powerful municipal agency. So think, what would the police department do in this case? What would the fire department or the paramedics say? How would they phrase this? How would they promote this? Because I think we're so stuck in this mindset of being defensive and kind of whiny that it's hard for us to remember that maybe isn't the best way to do things anymore. So start thinking like a business in your neighborhood. One that I think of a lot of times is there's a great game store in our downtown corridor that just does crazy business. I mean, they're tiny, but they do really, really well. And part of it is all of the marketing that they do and how they give back to the community, directly and indirectly, through donations, through having free gaming tournaments, by having game designers visit and teach classes on how to design games, all of this for free. And it's just a good way of getting people in the door because they're providing services and they're saying, here, you asked us for this, here, we're doing this. Awesome. If you're in the store and you happen to buy a game too, yay. But they don't focus on that. They don't focus on trying to drive usage. They focus on doing. They focus on serving. And so I've started to try to think more like that business owner when I make decisions about marketing messages for my library.
Sarah, you're going to probably get people who say, but the library isn't a business. Why should we think like one? And I'm sure there are people in the audience thinking that. So what do you say to that? How do you respond to that?
We aren't a business, but businesses have had a very, very long time and lots of money, lots of man hours to be able to figure out how to do effective marketing and effective campaigning. Politicians are the same. If you want to think like a politician, do that if that's a more comfortable milieu for you. A library doesn't have to function like a business, or be a business to take the best principles from what those types of organizations can do and apply it to our own situation. I think that much of what we do in terms of outreach, fundraising, marketing, campaigning for tax measures or other kinds of funding, professional development campaigning for pay equity, a lot of the messages that we send out are done, again, from a defensive position, and I feel like that's the wrong idea. I feel like the way that businesses do it, and again, even the way other municipal agencies who are your peers do it, is so much better than what we do that we just need to take a page from their playbook and adapt it a little bit to our own unique situation, but to take those core principles and make them work for us. I think everyone can think of something in their local community that is wildly successful, whether it's a restaurant or a bar or an art gallery or whatever. Think about why they're successful and how they've done as well as they have. And quite often it's a combination of providing really high quality service, which the libraries already do, and a very strong and good marketing campaign message. And that's what we don't do. That's what we don't do well. I can't tell you how many libraries, and mine's included, do not have a line item in their budget for marketing and outreach. We usually kind of take that money from other little pots if we do anything, if we spend any money on marketing. And I think that's a mistake. I think we need to not just build something and tell people to come to it, like build it and they will come. It's not true. You have to build it and then you have to remind them what's there and why it's so awesome over and over and over again. And it isn't the defensive reminding of, oh, have you really not heard that we have online newspapers and magazines? Come on, people. We've had these for 20 years. Come on and use them. Yeah, it's free with your library card. That's not a good message. Instead, it's, oh, there's this amazing thing, and it'll help you do this. Oh, come, here's how you access it. It's that high-energy, positive messaging that's going to get you responsiveness from the community.
Okay, thank you.
So I also want to mention just communicating your responsiveness. So one of the things that I hear a lot is, libraries take very seriously the community feedback they get, whether it's some kind of formal survey that you've done or just comment cards or emails or phone calls. We're very, receptive and responsive when the community offers suggestions. And I think that's something that we need to communicate back out as well, is when we do change a service or create a new service or change how we're doing collection development or loosen up a policy or whatever, if you've done it in response to community feedback, which a lot of times is where it's coming from, you need to make that really clear and make it clear that people's voices have been heard and that you're doing this because the community matters to you. You know you're here to serve the community, and so you're making the best decisions you can to make the world better for them, to make your services better for them. We just kind of do that anyway, but we never talk about it. And I think part of being a transparent organization and a successful organization is talking about the why of many of the changes or decisions that are made. And in our case, for libraries in general, most of the whys are really good whys. Like they're because you guys asked for it and we did it differently. So here you go. Thanks for the suggestion. You made it better for everybody. That's the message we need to be sending instead of, we updated our policy. Here it is. Okay, that's helpful. Not really. It's definitely not something that's going to engender more trust in your organization or more positive emotions toward your organization. And also focus on individual contributions. So I mean this in two ways. Focus on the members of your community who are contributing to the library, whether that's financially or through book donations or through volunteering at the library, or people who have voted for you, or someone who came out and spoke at a city council meeting, people who are working as community representatives on your boards or your commissions. Focus on the contributions to the library of individual community members. The second piece is focusing on the individual contributions of your staff and personalizing your staff And about 10 years ago, I remember having the same conversation about needing to personalize the staff more and not talk in vague, weird, institutional ways about, quote unquote, the library. Like, the library is here for you. The library now has 4 story times. It's like, no, children's librarian Jill is doing 3 new story times on Tuesdays, and Margaret does one on Thursday. You know, that's the message we should send. I remember talking about that about 10 years ago and got huge pushback of, no, we don't want people to know our names. We definitely don't want any version of our face online or like on a poster with our name attached to it. No. We need to be faceless and anonymous, and no, we don't know, we can't do that. And it's so funny how social media has changed people's willingness to be personalized in their communities. I mean, most of you have probably in your community run into people at the supermarket, at the dog park, whatever, and they say, oh, you work at the library, right? They already know who we are. You know, we're not hiding. This is not a secret. So I think what we should do is focus on the unique abilities, whether they're professionally work-related or not. Maybe all those awesome other things that staff person does for your community. Focus on what your staff does for the community and highlight that every once in a while as a way to show how much it is that we're real people, we're part of the community, and because we're part of the community and care about you, we're doing all this great stuff. I feel like that would be a beneficial message to send. And then lastly, as much as you can, focus on the community, not yourself. And I mean this across the board. The messages should always be about what's best for the community, how the community members are going to benefit from whatever you're doing, not about what the library wants, what the library needs, how awesome the library is, how great the library, has been over the last 10 years. It really should always circle back to the user and about that user's experience with your services. And this is an everyday conversation, your marketing pieces, your website, your discussions at staff meetings about what you're doing. Everything should always focus back on the user and that user's experience. And that's a hard shift to make, and it's one that takes time and some practice. But you can start changing those conversations in your library, I think, if you work at it. So just to close out, and then I'm happy to take any questions that people have, the idea that people love libraries, that in and of itself isn't controversial. We know that people love libraries. They come in and they tell us, oh, I love my library, or I loved my school librarian when I was in elementary school. She was so wonderful to me and helped me learn to love reading. And none of that is controversial. None of it's being debated. What I guess my challenge is, and my challenge to all of you, is how do we take that love that we know exists among a fairly large segment of our community and build on that. Make that love deeper within those individuals, and then spread the love to those who haven't either discovered or used our services yet, or people who are just kind of meh, whatever, apathetic about the library as an institution. The goal is to increase support always, right? Libraries serving the community and increasing support because we all know we need that support in the future. And I don't think you do that by begging. I don't think you do that by demanding. I don't think you do that by being so egotistical and narcissistic that all you can think about is how much people do or don't love you. The focus should be on how much we do love our communities and how much we do for them, and in turn, how much they do for us, and how their support is greatly appreciated, and how what they've done to support and to build a community library has made that community better for all of their neighbors and peers. I know I got a really great pointer from a library director. Right after I became a new director, I was totally panicking about a million things, and one of them was how to have good conversations about what we do when you're out at outreach events or out in the community visiting and being the public face of the library. And his advice, and I still use it every day, is that when I talk about I'll use the word community again, when I talk about our community, I don't say community. I don't say library users. I don't say users. I don't say patrons. I don't say customers. I say neighbors. And that was his suggestion, and I am so glad that he shared that with me, because I think that's a huge piece of what makes this whole conversation about love and libraries possible. Is if you think about all of those people who we serve on a daily basis as your neighbor, which they are in most cases, what you do for them becomes so much easier, and talking about why you do what you do for them becomes a lot clearer. So changing that language from patron, from user, which just sounds weird no matter what, to neighbor, folds the library into that intricate meshwork of your community, and I think makes us more real, makes us more personal, makes us more tangible. So I'll close out with that. I just wanted to leave a little bit of time for questions, so happy to take any thoughts, any suggestions, any arguments, whatever you'd like to share. And thank you so much.
Thanks, Sarah. Going back to what you just said about the neighbor thing, is that something you are encouraging your staff to use instead of saying, there's been that debate for a long time. What do we say? Do we say member? Do we say patron? Do we say user? So I'm curious as to your thoughts on that.
I've tried. I don't think it's been super successful, particularly with people who have been working in the library for a very, very long time. I think the language is hard to change if it's really ingrained. When I communicate, though, with the staff and also with the outside world, I try to use the word neighbor as much as I can. I try not to use the word patron or user. Those terms still exist in some of our older policies that I haven't gotten around to revising yet. And certainly as our staff members are talking amongst themselves, I hear them say patron a lot. I hear them say our people, which is kind of an interesting turn of phrase. And I don't think you can necessarily change that for everybody. But you could definitely encourage it and be an example yourself in how you talk about the people that we serve.
Great, thank you. Betha asks, do you have any suggestions for how we can express our appreciation for those community members who are not users but support the library by voting for levies? Those people who say they don't value the library but don't actually use it.
Question. I don't know if I have a magical answer, but I can share one thing that we're working on right now of rolling out is a direct thank you to the voters. We had a parcel tax that passed a few years ago that basically just restored the library to bare minimum budget situation for operations. The library had closed a bunch of hours, had to cut a bunch of positions, and this just restored it after about 3 years of really nasty, deep cuts. And a lot of promises were made about all the new things we would do with that money above just restoring services to the level that funding could actually support. And with only one exception, we've kept every single promise. So we're going to be rolling out a publicity campaign, and so far the working title is Promises Made, Promises Kept. And we're going to say, when you voted for this tax measure, you told us that these 4 things were important to you. And in the first 4 years of the tax measure, we've done all of them. Thank you for your support. Thank you for helping us to continue to deliver services to the community. And we hope we can count on your continued support when this parcel tax comes up for renewal in a few years. Of course, not all of that is going to be, in a little newspaper ad or something, but some variations on that message of, because you voted for this tax measure, here's all the stuff that the community got. Thank you for helping to support your neighbors. I feel like that might be one way to say thank you. Another thing that we've done is to actually put these special little stickers on all of the materials that were funded by that parcel tax, and it's like a little indicator of, because you voted for this book exists. Because you voted for this you can read this great thing or watch this awesome movie. And that's been really popular, as people have said that otherwise they wouldn't really have any tangible sense of what they got for voting that in and for choosing to tax themselves more. There are probably better suggestions out there, so happy to entertain those as well.
Great, thank you. I'm curious, when you wrote that blog post about this topic, did you receive any pushback, or since you've talked about this a little bit, have you heard anything like that, or what are people agreeing kind of with what you're saying about this love in library idea, or did you get some pushback from your blog post?
I didn't get any real pushback. I remember getting a message from someone, and I didn't look them up, so I don't know if they had any affiliations with any of the campaigns or anything. But they said that they didn't think that what I wrote was very helpful, and they thought that, you know, we needed to focus on our value and our worth in our communities, otherwise nobody would know. If we weren't telling people how awesome we were, nobody would be telling them. And I just politely disagreed, and that was that. That's okay. The reaction I've gotten from most people is kind of this, like, I didn't really think about it that way reaction. I've actually been asked to speak on this exact same topic at the end of the month to a group of library commissioners and trustees who are coming from libraries where they're trying to build support for funds for the library. So it's interesting that, you know, it's a weird message, and it's basically saying, yeah, you guys have been doing this wrong this whole time, which shouldn't be a popular message, but it seems to be resonating with a fair number of people, which I think is great.
I think so too. We're almost out of time, but the last question I want to ask, and I'm asking this of all of our speakers for the conference, and that is, what do you find most exciting about working in libraries right now? And for those of you who follow Sarah or maybe her friend on Facebook, she deals with some really interesting things on a weekly basis at her library, as I'm sure most of you do. But I have to admit, there are days where I think I'm having a bad day, and then I read things that Sarah is dealing with, and I feel a little bit better. Sorry, Sarah, that I'm, saying that.
Yeah, I get that a lot. I feel like it's a public service I'm providing, is making people feel like their days are less crappy.
Yes, but there have to be some good things that are happening too. So what does excite you about what's going on in libraries right now?
Well, in libraries in general, I think what's exciting is that we're kind of on the tail end of this technology explosion where our world changed radically in terms of what kinds of services we were providing. Over the last 20 years, things just went bonkers crazy. And we're kind of at this point now where that pace of change and innovation has slowed in the commercial market, and so we're not having to respond as quickly. What I'm seeing now is a lot of focus on improving what we're already doing instead of just scrambling to stay caught up, which is great. So to me, that's what's most exciting, is almost this, we have a chance to breathe right now and to do some introspection and some real improvements. What's exciting me about my own library is that they've been trying to build a new library for San Rafael since 1970, which was before my parents even met. And I use that in speeches all the time. I'm like, so you guys have been trying to build a new library here since before my parents met. Let's make it happen now. And we've finally, just over the last year, gotten some tremendous momentum, both with fundraising and political support for building a new library. Our building is over 110 years old, has not been maintained, has so many problems. It's less than a quarter the size it should be for a community our size. And so I'm just super excited about the prospect of being able to be involved in building a newer, better, more appropriately sized library for the community that I live and work in. So for me, the day-to-day craziness, yes, that exists, and it's a very real part of what I do, but the thought of being able to make such a massive improvement and change is really energizing.
Awesome. Well, that is a great comment to end on. So I just want to remind all of you that, again, we have 5 sessions tomorrow. We start at 9 o'clock with Pat Wagner. Really excited to hear what she has to say. Thank you so much, Sarah, for speaking about this topic. You provided so much good tips and food for thought. I want to thank all of you for listening, providing comments and questions. It just makes the webinar so much more rich since we can't all see one another. So I hope to see some of you tomorrow. If not, thanks again for participating, and have a great rest of your day.